Got a little bit, sorry. We're happy.
It's my absolute pleasure to welcome a very special guest to the Bipolar UK annual conference. Heston Blumenthal is a world-renowned chef and restaurateur. I'm excited to be sitting here in one of his restaurants, but the reason we're here to talk is that Heston has had incredible courage in talking about his bipolar diagnosis and many of the challenges he had in the lead up to that, including extreme mood swings, hallucinations and paranoia. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome Heston to the conference. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thanks, Anushka. That's probably the first introduction like that I've ever had.
Obviously, we're here to talk about not food, but bipolar and
Yes.
your bipolar diagnosis. Can I just start by asking you why you decided to talk about it?
Why did I need to speak out about bipolar? It's because I didn't realise I had it. When I got the diagnosis, I realised my behaviour before, and I realised the effects it has on people around me. And I realised how many other people are in the same situation. A lot of people won't have the support team around them that are going to help them.
Do you think you look back and see symptoms when you were a child?
The more time passes, the more my memory seems to be going back to access moments of younger. So I got this morning, actually, I was sitting in the car, and I used to get road rage, quite strong road rage, and I would have been in my late teens. But then I kickboxed for 15 years. 10. I think both the kickboxing and the cooking, I think they both frame my bipolar.
And you're talking about your late teens for early symptoms.
Yes.
How long are you waiting there for a diagnosis?
Well, I'm 58, I think.
You have to think about that.
57, 58. I'm around about 58. So, 40 years.
The thing I can't kind of get my head around in a way is that you've lived for 50 years with something as serious as bipolar disorder and without a diagnosis.
How come I wasn't hospitalised before? I've broken so many bones in my body being over-enthusiastic. I've got a metal in my back, I've had a hip replacement, metal here, just gone through the lot. Now I realise, to look back at it, I kind of had no fear. Now, I'm scared of things going wrong. But when I was told I was bipolar, I was in hospital.
Were you able to understand why you were in hospital when you first went?
I was confused. I had no idea where I was, no idea why I was there. Because when the group of people came to the house, I was at home on my own. And I had probably 5 of them pin me down to the side on the sofa. I saw the doctor bring out this big syringe and I was fighting them. When I saw the syringe come out, I just thought, oh, okay, go with it. I had no idea why they were there, why they took me where they took me, where they took me to, how long was I going to stay there. I remember when I came to, it was the psychiatrist in the psychiatric hospital. And I said, how long am I going to be in here? And she said, maybe a day to 2.
How long were you in that?
I was in that hospital for 2 weeks and then moved, transferred.
I mean, it would have been an incredibly difficult decision for your family to make.
Yeah. Yep. And that's why why I wasn't hospitalised before, because I didn't have my wife. I didn't have my wife to do it. And for her, she was preparing this until she could put it off any longer. The decision for her to do that is immense. And the doctor said to her, 2 days left, basically, in me.
She would have lost you otherwise.
Yeah. My immune system had started to break down. If it wasn't for my wife, I would have been dead. I had a lot of time in there to think, and I realised I'd lived with bipolar for at least 50 years of my life. And my behaviour was my behaviour. So it was normal because it was and has always been me. But when I found out I had bipolar 1, I started reading and researching. And my behaviour was not normal. But I thought it was. And I'd have these manic states of Jesus Christ or superhero. Want to save the world. I love everyone. Look at how beautiful this leaf is. Ideas of just. I was interrupting myself, my ideas, with more ideas. But when you're in a manic stage, the imagination just goes ballistic. Everything is wonderful. And someone asked me, okay, if you had a button that would allow you to turn your bipolar off, would you take it? I said, yes, but on one condition, that I could have it to turn it on again. But then that meant that would mean
turn off the bad bit.
Turn off the bad bit. But that never happens. You know, what goes up has to come down, basically. I'd been starting to have hallucinations before then, but also sound hallucinations, which is really strange. So it's like being able to hear there's some music playing over there, but there isn't any.
Scary.
Yeah, and I see. So all of these are classic symptoms of bipolar.
Yeah.
And then when I was in hospital, it got even worse. I thought my wife was sitting on the pillow of the bed, but there was silence. So I said, am I boring you, or are you asleep? But she wasn't there. I said to the psychiatrist in the hospital about these hallucinations, and she said, yes, it's something that can happen.
Wow. I mean, one of the reasons I'm talking about your courage in talking about this is because there is quite a lot of stigma around bipolar, isn't there?
Yes, and it's understandable in today's society. It's not just bipolar that people don't want other people to see, because they want to be. Social media is a classic example. They want to have this outward-facing, perfect. We're all human beings, and that's not the way human beings work. So it all changed after my diagnosis. I realised before. I think when the Waitrose contract I had for 10 years is stopped. In the paper, their reasons for stopping was my unpredictability, which is bipolar. So I'm not saying it's exactly why that stopped, but they said it's in newsprint. The diagnosis is so crucial to this. If you've got the diagnosis, people's perception, I think, is very different. If you don't have the diagnosis, you don't realise it, then your behaviour can seem very strange. So if you've got people around you, it can be very difficult for them. So, of course, there's a stigma about this, because we all want to be normal.
I mean, looking around where we are now, you've had incredible success. Do you feel like you've had that despite the bipolar, or has it somehow contributed to it?
In terms of my bipolar, I haven't been living in a professional kitchen for several years.
Right.
I think I spent the first 10 years, I never missed one service. I was working about 120 hours a week. Wow. Don't know how I did it, but I did. As I came out of the kitchen to go from a small restaurant to a brand, and distancing myself from the day-to-day running of the kitchen, I think my bipolar behaviour expanded. So somehow, I think the kitchen framed my bipolar.
And obviously it's early days, but how are you managing your symptoms?
Pretty well, I think. I've got a nice belly from the medication. It's a combination of the medication, talking about it. I'm still doing research on the gut, and as my world and taste buds are connected to the gut, right. I've always seen myself, in my adult life, as a walking experiment. So what happens if I do this? I suppose it's, in my job, in my love for cooking, my taste buds, my senses, the multi-sensory element of cooking and eating is what has obsessed me for years, decades. And I wanted to know more about myself. So having had a diagnosis, I see myself pre and post differently, but I'm the same person.
You know, you said earlier about if you could press a button to switch it off, would you or wouldn't you? What would you want the ability to bring back? What are you scared of losing?
Going back again to pre-diagnosis, I was happy even when I was angry. It's a really hard thing to get your head around. If I can put the Manic one on Superman and Save the World mode, but I need to be able to turn that off, because it's that Jesus Christ syndrome Superman thing that leads to the boof on the other end.
Bipolar UK have done a lot on trying to get earlier diagnosis for people, because, you know, yours is a very extreme example, but most people are waiting over 10 years for a diagnosis.
Yeah.
How much do you think that would change people's experience?
Massive. If you think about mental health, one of the very few things that COVID did that was beneficial, not nice, but beneficial, was it opened people's awareness to mental health. That whole COVID world, we were trapped. Many people would have developed some level of depression and anxiety. You can't see bipolar. I mean, you have to follow someone's activity again, or you can't see ADHD, or you can't see these things people live with. Being aware of them and doing something about them is vital. And if the National Health Service must view now mental health, it's the biggest killer on planet Earth. The French now introducing you can have one psychiatrist session per month for everyone. So you imagine if the National Health Service, let's say it takes them 5 years or 10 years, but if everyone gets tested, it would change massively. People wouldn't feel alone.
Heston, I can't thank you enough for speaking out. It was incredible, everything you said. We really, really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.